We get along very famously, as you would say.
This is a great day for the special relationship.
The United Kingdom is this is a wonderful country.
My friend, our friend, President Trump.
Thank you very much.
That was a good mashup. I enjoyed that. Ruth did too. Hello and welcome to Electoral Dysfunction meets Trump 100, the Sky News podcast mashup with me, Beth Rigby, at the Prime Minister's country home, Chequers.
Me, Mark Stone, also here at Chequers in Buckinghamshire, 45 miles or so to the northwest of Downing Street. In a glamorous field, aren't we, Beth?
Yes.
Well, it's also me, Ruth Davidson. I'm at home. I'm, despite being in Scotland, not in a field, although we do have some beautiful, beautiful fields in Scotland, the most beautiful, very close to where Trump's mum was born. It's proper Scotland, that is.
Me, Harriet, Harman in Westminster, and I've stolen your studio, Beth, but unfortunately you took the hair and makeup with you, which is why you look so fab.
I have a lot of makeup on. I decided that Trump's state visit and press conference was a false eyelashes day. So I am fully made up as I look a little bit ridiculous, but apparently it works on camera. Well, this is like the Avengers have assembled, isn't it? It's our own Sky News special relationship. And it's quite a sight to see here because the world's media have descended on my home county. I grew up in Buckinghamshire, I have you all know, for a front row seat to Donald Trump's big day with Keir Starmer.
Yeah, it was indeed. And if you're confused, thinking you were tuning in for Trump 100 and you're getting electoral dysfunction or the other way around, it's because we brought it all together for this special occasion, special relationship. As you say, Beth, it has been a very, very busy day here in Buckinghamshire. The whole US press pack turned up to see it all in person, and so it has been, well, there have been a lot of people here, haven't there? It's
been like being in a movie. I felt like I was in an American movie.
And you see like the armed police walking around. It felt, you know, the Chinooks landing.
Yeah.
Are you envious?
I mean, frankly, yes, I love a bit of theatre. Although, to be honest, the bit I would have liked most was probably the bagpipes as they arrived, and then also the parachutists.
That did look a little bit like a Bond film because they came into land, and you've got a bug on your shoulder, Beth.
Have
there
I?
We go. It's gone.
Thank you.
They came into land. One of them had a massive Union flag underneath as he was carrying, like, attached to his feet. So that looked amazing. Anyway, the good news is because there were so many people here, rather than being in a field, we actually got a marquee, us media.
And we're doing things slightly differently on our podcast. So to our dysfunctioners, if you like the sound of Mark, remember to follow Trump 100 wherever you get your podcasts, where you'll get him, James and Martha, dissecting everything happening in the States. And for anyone new to our political sisterhood of Beth, me and Ruth, just search for Electoral Dysfunction for your UK politics.
Yeah, I have to say, ladies, I feel a little bit outnumbered here.
It's fine. You'll be fine.
Will I be all right?
Yeah, I like you. You're fine.
Okay.
You're an equal partner in this special relationship, I promise.
I'll tell you what, Mark Austin's over there. He's busy on the telly, but I'll get him over here.
Yeah, we're gonna double up on Marks.
We're going to talk about Trump and Starmer. That press conference, it was the moment of jeopardy. We'll get into the significance of that, the significance of the whole visit. We will take you behind the scenes here a bit too, and we'll touch on two major stories rumbling on in the background. That is the ongoing free speech debate after American talk show host Jimmy Kimmel was taken off air for his remarks about Charlie Kirk's assassination.
And the other big story rumbling on is Peter Mandelson. We've got to get Harriet's latest take on the man who hasn't been around in person this week, but he's certainly been talked about, even if Donald Trump pretends he doesn't actually know who he is. It's Harriet's old cabinet colleague, Peter Mandelson. I asked Trump about it, and we'll get to that.
But we've got a president and a prime minister to talk about. They look like they had fun.
Yeah. And Mark, you've had a bit of a steer, haven't you, about how Team Trump think it all went. You got to speak to Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, right?
Yeah, and Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, and for a brief second, Marco Rubio as well. It was a strange moment because you were invited. You got an official seat at the press conference, didn't you, through Downing Street?
Yes.
Because I'm based in Washington, we went through the White House and I got rejected. I just thought I'd try my luck. So I sort of coattailed your pink jacket in there and discovered that there was no checks and I went straight in. And it was a really good thing I did because the first person I saw mingling at the front among the cabinet, the US cabinet, was Susie Wiles, this highly influential chief of staff of Donald Trump, been at his side for so long, Floridian like where he lives. And so influential. So I got chatting to her, and it was really interesting. It was only brief, but I did manage to get out of her just how much they've enjoyed this. So she didn't actually need to speak. She looked so sort of bedazzled by the whole thing. But she did say, she said, the whole thing has been just great. Every part of it. Dinner was the best bit. She then told me that the president and the prime minister had a lengthy one-on-one, and she emphasized the president. She said he doesn't do that sort of thing very often. There was no one else in the room. She said they were supposed to get 15 minutes. She then said it was about half an hour. I think the prime minister said it was even longer, up to an hour. Anyway, it was a long time. Interestingly, I don't know what you all think of this, but she said that there was no talk of Ukraine, no talk of Gaza, no talk of foreign policy issues at the points where she was present. But she then did emphasise that privately at this one-on-one, maybe they did talk about it.
Yeah, they must have done, because the PM mentioned it. And this is a bit of background that I've picked up from a UK source, which is the Prime Minister absolutely delighted with the visit. The view is that the PM's personal relationship with the president has helped create an environment for much bigger than expected deals. It's been a huge economic boost. The presser went well. And on the torrid time Starmer's been having, the source tells me the government was hit by two extraneous shocks: Angela Rayner's tax issue and Peter Mandelson's emails from 2008, both out of our control. There is a view that they are now firmly back on track with real momentum going on into conference. So after a torrid couple of weeks, dare Keir Starmer get his tail up? Let's see.
Well, talking about questions, Beth, you were called on very last in the press conference, top billing right at the end there. I thought you might not get in. Instead of asking one question, you asked about six, but there was one kind of gaping hole in the press conference that had covered Gaza, it covered economics, it covered free speech, and you were left kind of cleaning up the Peter Mandelson question. But the answer was a jaw drop, a proper, we call it in Scotland a scone dropper. You know, you were probably like, oh, did he just say that? Oh.
Finally, if I may, the elephant in the room, Lord Mandelson, he is no longer the ambassador. Do you have some sympathy with him that he lost his job over historic links to Jeffrey Epstein? Thank you very much, sir.
I don't know him, actually. I had heard that, and I think maybe the Prime Minister would be better speaking of that. That was a choice that he made, and I don't know. What is your answer to that?
Well, I mean, it's very straightforward. Some information came to light last week which wasn't available when he was appointed, and I made a decision about it, and that's very clear.
Keir Starmer thought he got away with it. He thought he was getting away out of the room with it. He did.
A proper hospital pass from Trump to Starmer as well.
So you don't know if you're going to get called or where you're going to get called. I was pretty confident I'd probably get a question. Then when you realise that you're kind of running down the running order, you're like, well, I've prepared 4 or 5 questions, but are they all going to be gone? So that's also very stressful. When we got to the end, I couldn't really believe that no one had asked a question about Lord Mandelson. I figured it would be the first or second question that the UK lobby, at least, would ask about. So I'm sitting in this room thinking, I really, really don't want to have to ask. We closed these proceedings and it's all gone really well. I was like, I'm going to have to do it, aren't I? So I tried to do it in a way where I thought it would potentially elicit a response from Donald Trump. So do you have any sympathy? I just couldn't believe when he said, I don't know who he is.
Because we should emphasise that clearly Donald Trump knows precisely who Peter Mandelson is. Peter Mandelson has been in the Oval Office quite a few times. He was there for the trade deal every time Starmer has been to Washington, and that's quite a few times. At his right-hand side would have been Peter Mandelson. Trump knows exactly who he is.
Well, it's also, it was clearly, I mean, in a kind of way, because he was on his best behaviour. I mean, I've seen some Trump pressers that have gone catastrophically badly. That wasn't one of them. He was absolutely playing nice. And it seemed to me that he was really trying to be helpful by saying, oh yeah, I don't know the guy, the PM can answer to this, he's got the line on this. But it's really unhelpful, because the entire
Exactly.
point from the entire UK government for the last 5 days has been, it was a risk putting Mandelson in there, but it was worth the risk because he's a Trump whisperer, he understands him, he gets on, he can get the White House to do his bidding, he can really work with these people. And Trump's going, yeah, I don't know the guy, he's just some punter that I've never heard of.
I'll just say quickly two things. I think it was an attempt to be helpful.
Yeah.
I don't think he liked the word Epstein being spoken in his environment at all. And interestingly, afterwards, a few of the US press corps came up and thanked me for asking that question, because they said, no one will ask the question, so good on you for asking it. And someone messaged, this is a minister messaged me after that, which made me laugh. They said, it's funny that Trump said he didn't know him. It's my favourite jam to pretend I don't know people who think they are really important. And I wonder how annoyed Peter Mandelson must feel, because he hated having to stand down. And now he's been completely defenestrated by Trump as they sign the tech deal, which he says is his personal pride and joy.
I think, Beth, you were exactly right to ask the question. I mean, remember, there was a 3-hour debate in the House of Commons on Tuesday with a lot of MPs saying Trump will be absolutely furious that Peter Mandelson has been sacked, and this will undermine the special relationship on the eve of the state visit. And it turns out, when you ask the question, you're absolutely right. It was the elephant in the room. Nobody else asked it. You did. But he basically said, Peter who? And I think that Number 10 will be very relieved at that, because what they want to do is to move on to the substance of the US investment into the UK, the trade deal, working together in relation to Ukraine. They don't want to be discussing Peter Mandelson, and you know what? They're not going to be. But there still are issues for us, Ruth, in the House of Lords, because Peter Mandelson is on leave of absence from the House of Lords, and after 3 months he can reapply to come in. But actually, it's quite paradoxical, looking at the dates, that he managed to get past the House of Lords vetting in 2008, because that's when Gordon Brown nominated him from the Lords. By that time, Jeffrey Epstein had already been convicted, and Peter Mandelson was already a long-standing friend of his. So it really raises questions about the first-off vetting of the House of Lords in 2008.
Well, let's not talk about the process. What do you think, Harriet? Because you know Peter better than anyone else on this pod. If he's not fit to be the UK ambassador to the US, is he fit to sit in Parliament? Is he fit to sit in the Lords? Do you want him back?
I think there should be a process, but actually I don't think he enhances the reputation of the House of Lords. I think he would damage it, and I think he's got a talent for reinventing himself and reappearing after scandals, but I think this time that's got to be it.
Oh, well, there you go. You heard it from Harriet here first. He's not welcome. We've been doing a bit of fact-checking. I think we can prove that the pair of them have met, and that actually the president does know who he is.
As the Prime Minister has said, just shows what two countries who trust each other, who are confident in each other and are familiar with each other can do, not just for ourselves, but for the rest of the world who need to benefit from a bigger and better international trading system.
Thank you very much. It was beautifully stated. What a beautiful accent. I'd like to have that accent. Thank you.
My mother would be proud.
Well, President Trump then said he didn't know him, but he clearly does know him, so it's even more of an excruciating moment for Peter Mandelson.
But in terms of the questions that were being asked of Trump, and particularly from the travelling American press corps, Mark, I was struck by just how internationalist it was. I mean, this was all foreign policy that the president was being asked to cover here.
It was, but what was also striking is who he took the questions from for the first three. His first question, very interestingly, was for GB News, not for an American outlet, but for GB News. That's telling, and reflective, I think, of how close GB News has come to the presidency. The second question was Brian Glenn. Brian Glenn is the suit man, the man who asked Zelensky why he wasn't wearing a suit in the Oval Office.
And then when
Remember
Zelensky
that?
came back, he said, Brian, you're in the same suit as me. At least I've changed.
Exactly. So Brian Glenn is an American reporter who works for a very, very pro-Trump outlet. I've got to know Brian very well over the past, 6-8 months or so. But he always gets a first or second question from Trump. And honestly, I'll be blunt, and I say it to his face as well. His questions are not really questions. They're more statements of how brilliant the Trump administration is doing. And then the third question was from Fox News. So they were not particularly hard questions, any of them. But you're right. It was a focus more on foreign policy than it was on the moment of the day, the pomp, the circumstance, and the tech deals.
But I think for all that the red carpet was rolled out and, there's been lots of suggestions that, that Keir Starmer has been kind of, bending the knee to Trump. Actually, what happened over this state visit is Keir Starmer has done incredibly well. He hasn't moved an inch from his position on Ukraine and on Putin. He's been moving the country closer to the EU. He's done a very clear position on recognizing the Palestinian state, which is very different again from Trump. And unlike Trump, he's got climate change as an issue in the forefront of his political concerns. So basically, what Starmer's done is he's managed to create a strong relationship with President Trump in order to lever in investment, get a good trade deal, try and bind him in to the coalition of the willing. So he's got the positive gains without actually shifting his basic principle position on a whole range of issues where we differ from Trump, but that they haven't become an issue. So I think he's done incredibly well.
And Beth, you said on Sky that I saw in your kind of up some of it, you were saying that the press conference, it was people that when they were disagreeing agreeably. And I thought, particularly as I watched a lot of the questions on Gaza and Israel, it was clear the Prime Minister and the President were coming from different backgrounds, different positions and policy positions on it. But I did think that actually, there's no domestic harm to Starmer to have him stand next to the president and say something different and stick to his guns on it, but particularly to a domestic Labour supporting audience.
You're absolutely right, Ruth. And actually, the burning question I actually had was on Gaza, what Trump was going to do. Was he going to press Prime Minister Netanyahu? There's some reports in the US media today saying that he's privately saying how frustrated he is with the Israeli Prime Minister behind closed doors. But you saw in his responses, and he was asked a couple of times, he just won't go there publicly. So he flips it to Hamas and the hostages. And what I think was good for Starmer was, Starmer clearly isn't going to do much on Palestinian statehood until Trump has left. That much is obvious. But it was clear that he had made his case. He is going to recognise the Palestine state. And Trump was clear there. He said, we don't agree with this. It's one area we disagree, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the point. You see, all of those things, you're like, that's the blow up, that's the blow up. And actually, what was really interesting about all of this is, I don't know whether it's because Starmer has found a way to work with Trump. It might be because Trump really has enjoyed the state visit and he doesn't want to cast a shadow over it. Whatever reasons, and it's probably a bit of both, he managed to kind of, in that moment, be his own man and be his own prime minister and not piss Donald Trump off, which is no easy feat,
it's
is it,
almost
Mark?
as if they got to a position, they've got to a position in their relationship now where few people are at with Trump, incidentally, where they can disagree without there being consequences from the Americans. He's managed to lay on enough over the course of the past few days that their relationship is close enough that they're able to do that. I think that's a kind of win, isn't it, for Starmer?
It is, but I would still say the bigger issue here, and this is, the only leader that can unlock Netanyahu is President Trump. And for whatever reason, at the moment, he is not doing that. And until he does, the idea of Israel pulling back seems very distant. And as all of that goes on, this humanitarian crisis is building in Gaza. There are reports about a wide-set famine really setting in, and it's just heartbreaking to see it, right?
And Mark, on the other big conflict in the world that was talked about today, on Ukraine and Russia.
Today, the phrase was, Putin has let me down,
We've solved 7 wars, wars that were unsolvable, wars that couldn't be negotiated or done. The U.S. has done 7 of them. The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin, but he's let me down. He's really let me down. It was going to be Russia and Ukraine, but we'll see how that turns out.
That was a newsline for sure. But honestly, like, what's he going to say next week? He's going to have a call with Putin. Putin's going to feel like Putin's going to say something, buy himself more time, and Trump will be back the other way. So hard to know, really. But I mean, Beth, your question to both of them was essentially the one that Volodymyr Zelensky posed to Yalda Hakim when she interviewed him earlier this week. You know, now's the time to help us. Yeah, look, the thing was, I had a section on Ukraine in my question bank, and when Trump said Putin's let me down, that really caught my attention, because I thought he's been apologising for Putin, he's saying he can do business with Putin, and then he stood up there and said it's been much harder. I thought I could do business with Putin, and he's let me down. And I thought, actually, is this a moment perhaps where Trump finally begins to turn the screws on Putin? Is he going to do it? And so that's why I pivoted to that. I don't think, sorry to interject, I don't think it is the moment, and I'll tell you why. I think he said this before and then pivoted away, but also I think what he's now doing is he's got an excuse to blame someone else. He's now saying, you guys in Europe, I've just discovered you're still spending loads of money buying Russian oil. What the heck's all that about? Stop doing that, and until you stop doing that, I'm not going to help out. And as we know, people like the Germans and others are far too reliant on Russian oil to stop buying it overnight. So that's a delaying tactic. Trump and Putin are both essentially delaying. You know, there were 2 questions in it. Was it a mistake to invite him to Alaska? Did you regret that? And he said no. Okay, that was interesting. He's like, no, I still think it was worth getting him to the table. But then when it came to the matter of actually, are you going to impose these sanctions that the Europeans are pressing for you to do, he then retrenched. Because actually he does have it in his power to turn the screw on Putin, and he retrenched, and he used that as a way of reiterating what he'd said on Truth Social, as Mark was saying, about actually it's on NATO allies. And actually I asked the Prime Minister that, about whether he agreed with Trump on that, and he seized upon that actually to pivot away from actually answer any questions on what he's actually going to do about it. And I tried to shout at him as he was leaving, like, what about President Putin? And off he went. So I think for the Europeans, I would imagine that there's a feeling of weariness, really, that they're still, despite the efforts of maybe King Charles behind closed doors or Keir Starmer behind closed doors, how much are they really moving Trump, you know?
And how much they were talking about peace, the Second World War, standing together. I mean, we had a day of pageantry on Wednesday, and then we went to a day of pure politics on the Thursday. And there's so much from that press conference to chew over. But what you were saying, Mark, about the way in which Trump says something, then pivots, and then says something, then pivots, is something that struck a chord with one of our listeners, Justin, who messaged to say, Trump is here to be lauded, and he really does look like a kid at a theme park. Whether Starmer comes away with anything substantive is in doubt. Also, Trump is so fickle that he is Britain's great friend in the moment, but in the weeks and months to come, that sentiment could be very different. So there's already, just less than a year into his second presidency, there's this sense that, he'll sign any old bit of paper, but will he actually honour any agreements that he signs?
There was a funny moment when he signed the deal today, and that incidentally was if you'd asked me a week ago at the state visit, are they actually going to sign anything? I'd have probably said no, but clearly they did. They signed a massive tech deal. But as he signed it, he looked up and said to his Commerce Secretary, Howard, should I sign this? Then to his Treasury Secretary, Scott, it's your fault if it's a bad deal. It gives you a sort of sense that he doesn't really know what he's signing. Someone's told him to sign this. It sounds good. The numbers are big. There's loads of business guys with loads of dosh in the room. He's a happy man, and by the way, it's a palace as well. Great. Yeah, and look, just from another source in government, in terms of the Prime Minister need in this moment, this is someone that knows him very well. They say he spent the past 2 weeks having to clear up for others. Today he got to remind people what he is in it for and what he's good at.
point one. And in terms of the investment, this is this government source saying it's massive and it is real money. It's not promises of investment, it's actual investment. And if you think about what we've talked about in this pod the whole time about trying to reboot the economy and the struggles they're having and the economic difficulties they're in, I mean, I think we should give it a moment to say they've actually secured a lot of inward investment for both big tech, computing infrastructure and nuclear, and that is what they promised they would do. So I think after a torrid couple of weeks, they actually have a little bit of license here, don't they, to feel, maybe even give themselves a tiny pat on the back. Now, we said we should get into Jimmy Kimmel's big American talk show being pulled off air after his comments about Charlie Kirk. It got talked about in the press conference. And even if you've never watched him, this is a story worth knowing about because it matters about freedom of speech in the US. It's a massive moment here. Mark, can you explain it for us?
Yeah, well, Jimmy Kimmel, many listeners, viewers will have heard of him. They know exactly who he is. Some may not. He's massive, absolutely massive. Late night talk show host, comedian on ABC, and his show has a sort of a familiar theme, and it is a Trump basher. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He's not a fan of Donald Trump. The ratings are high, and he does like this monologue at the beginning, and the monologue which has got him cancelled was about MAGA's response to the death of Charlie Kirk. And he said that the MAGA gang, as he called them, were trying to score political points from Kirk's murder. He said that they were quick to blame the left before much was known about the shooter's motives. And he effectively said that he sort of called into question whether the shooter, whether the gunman was actually from the liberal left. That clearly sent the right in America into a tailspin. What was really interesting, that America's version of Ofcom got involved and basically said, we're looking at maybe suing Kimmel for these comments. Guess what? Ofcom in America, it's not independent, and the boss of Ofcom is a Trump appointee, so no wonder he was upset. The other side of politics, clearly they are very angry. California Governor Gavin Newsom posting on X that the GOP, the Republican Party, does not believe in free speech. They are censoring you in real time. This is a massive story in America. It was even mentioned in Chequers behind us today.
Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
I think one of the things that was awful about what Kimmel said is he accused Trump of crying crocodile tears over Charlie Kirk and just weaponizing it, which I just think is completely wrong. And the thing is that free speech doesn't work as a partisan issue. You've got to defend your right to free speech, but you've also got to defend the right of free speech of people that you find absolutely abhorrent. And there's no point everyone branding each other hypocrites when it comes to free speech. I mean, obviously, you've got to carve out a legitimate position which bans incitement to violence, incitement to racial hatred, supporting terrorism or encouraging public disorder. But otherwise, you've got to defend everyone's right to free speech. And ironically, that's what Charlie Kirk was actually doing when he was tragically shot down. And I'm not going to say, but he was shot, which is awful, but I don't agree with his views. I think you've just got to be full on. It was terrible that he was shot. He's a debater that believes in free speech. That was absolutely terrible. And at some point, people from all sides have got to get together and support free speech, not weaponize it, not use it as a stick to beat each other, not call each other hypocrites, but all recognize we all must support free speech. Otherwise, our democracies are massively undermined. And I think what Jimmy Kimmel said was absolutely awful.
Can I ask you a question, Mark? Because I was reading some analysis opinion in the US press today about it, and they're saying the issue with Trump is he says he supports free speech, but actually what he supports is favoured speech, and what he actually supports is speech that he agrees with. And actually it's quite chilling. And even when you were talking about the US press corps there and how he calls journalists, that one of them you were saying will just make a statement about the brilliance of Trump. I mean, this is going very deep into the structures in America, right?
Well, funnily enough, I said this on the telly earlier on. We were talking about it, and I said that last night, and I ended the day, and it was all the sort of the solemnity and pomp and of yesterday at Windsor, and Trump sort of lording it around Windsor, and I just thought, because I'd just come over from America, I mean it is very on edge over there after the murder of Charlie Kirk. The country it's I mean, I know everyone always says America's always been divided. It feels so bitterly divided at the moment. There are ICE agents on the streets pulling people off the streets if they've got a brown skin. There is, you know, all this stuff over free speech, that the National Guard are on the streets. It does feel like a country on edge, and yet all that was forgotten yesterday. And clearly, you know, that's not particularly helpful for Keir Starmer at all. That's like la 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 noise. I'm just dealing with my trade deal here.
Well, it's never going to get solved by people adding up the victims on both sides. You know, the terrible killing of representatives, democratically elected representatives in Minnesota, the absolute awful assault on Nancy Pelosi's husband, now the killing of Charlie Kirk. I mean, you can't establish righteousness by virtue of which side you're on. You've got to all be on the side of free speech and supporting each other's free speech.
Well, look, I think the matter of free speech is something that we're going to be coming back to, not least because of the rally in London over the weekend in which Elon Musk beamed himself in and used language that the UK government certainly thought was crossing the boundaries.
I'm surprised that didn't come up in the news conference, actually. Talking of free speech, you ladies don't, free-flowing speech, you don't stop.
Men telling me to stop talking, the bloody story of my life.
It's such a terrible trope, men saying that women speak all the time, because research has shown that actually...
Oh dear. What have I done?
The research has shown that men speak much more than women, but men always say women speak more than them.
That is all that we've got time for. Beth, you've got some television to do. You've got to speak to the nation. We are going to end our special relationship here. Our reciprocal agreement has run out. We've run its course. Mark, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for letting us come and join you.
No, thank you for having me. I will check my bank account for the transfer fee, which I hope will be there. If you are new to Trump 100, then it's lots of fun. We are on Spotify, YouTube, all that stuff. And we have an email address, trump100@sky.uk. Me, James, Martha, the US correspondent at Sky News. Follow us all. Come and find us. Come and listen. Stone_Sky News is me on Twitter and Instagram.
And we can't afford Mark's transfer fee, so we're going to crowdsource our listener base to get him back on if we can afford him. We hope we can one day. But remember to email us questions to electoraldysfunction@sky.uk. And I hope you Trump 100ers might come and join us again.
Shall we say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.